On today's episode of the Cryptoverse. Due to popular demand, today we'll look at some tips on how to prepare yourself for a Bitcoin hard fork. TunnelBear is the simple VPN app that makes it easy to browse the web privately and enjoy a more open and secure internet experience. Try TunnelBear for free by checking out the link in the video description below. Hi there guys, and welcome to the latest episode of the Cryptoverse, your regular dose of news and commentary on Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies and blockchains. I am your host, Chris Coney. Today is the 15th of March 2017, so let's get right into it, shall we? One quick announcement today. I can't make a story out of this, so I'll just put it in the announcement section. But Storj, the decentralized sort of cloud storage, Google Drive style, Dropbox style, decentralized blockchain project, is now out of beta, which means it's now a fully fledged commercial product. It's odd that they don't take cryptocurrency as payment yet, not as far as I can see anyway. So you'd have to pay them with a credit card. However, if you want to be a farmer and donate some of your hard drive space to them, then you'll earn some Storj cryptocurrency in exchange for that. So this is good news. And that means that any online app can now outsource storage to Storj for a fraction of the cost of other commercial offerings. Pretty good if you ask me. So Storj with a J, storj.io to find out more. Moving swiftly on to the market roundup. Never a dull day in the world of cryptocurrency markets. We've got several double-digit gains once again today. The first one of these was being Dash with a gain of 13.8% and a price per coin now knocking on $90. Today's price, in fact, is $88.34. That's like a 10x increase since December. Absolutely insane. Now, I've seen a lot of speculation about whether this massive increase will result in an equivalent crash, or whether this is just Dash getting adopted or not. I honestly don't know myself, because every time I think Dash has reached the top, it just seems to go higher. So it does mean right now that Dash has a market cap of 633 million, which is marching towards $1 billion. Now, officially, the biggest winner today, though, is Digix DAO down here, 15th position. It slipped out of the top 20 recently, but now makes a strong comeback, leaking into the top 20 at 15th, like I say. And that's thanks to a 48.6% gain in the last 24 hours, leaving a DGD coin at $14.50, well, at time of recording anyway. Now, Digix sells itself as this, it's a platform for enabling you to buy crypto assets that are backed by physical gold, an idea I like very much, because it's a 100% reserve system with absolutely no sign of fractional reserve banking. And I also heard today that the Digix 2.0 token is now live, which probably has something to do with this significant gain. Now down here, look, in 18th position, Shadow Cash is at it again, swinging up near 25% today, putting a coin at $3.66. And holding steady at 18th place. Now, another thing to mention here is that Steam has taken enough of a beating to now have dropped out of the top 20 for the first time, well, since I can remember actually. I would say I still had confidence in the platform and think it would bounce back, but I also heard today that Dan Larimer, one of the original founders of Steemit, has resigned from Steemit Inc. So that, just from a perception point of view, since he was the chief technical officer, the creator of the Graphene Toolkit, he was the creator of the BitShares system, and then went on to create the Graphene Toolkit, which Steem came out of, and now he's resigned. And to be honest, I was a Dan lover, but I did hear a lot of criticism on people like, I think it was Tone Vase, who criticized Dan Larimer for starting a project and then leaving it and starting something else, and sort of abandoning it. And I sort of pushed back against that, but now it seems to have happened again. Dan has, for whatever reason, resigned from Steemit, another project which didn't quite live up to expectations, if you like, not so far anyway. So that's not really a good look. We'll have to wait for more news on that. Now, officially, the biggest loser today is Factum, down 7.2%. And I must apologize to Factum because yesterday it was one of the coins that had a double-digit gain. It was around about 25% gain yesterday, but I failed to give it a mention, so apologies for that. That's important to know, though, in the context of today's drop of 7.2, because taking those two numbers together, you can see that people holding Factum would still be up some 18%, on net on those 2 days. Now, there was a general consensus in the Patrons chat group yesterday that the most frustrating thing about cryptocurrencies right now for us each is that we would really love more capital to invest, on top of the heavy investments that we've already made. But then again, everyone has to have a limit. And now we turn to Bitcoin Wisdom for a quick chart reading. The Bitcoin price chart is still a little bit dull today. There are a couple of things that I can point out, though. One is that these small range candles are continuing, which, like I said yesterday, is either a sign that the market sort of generally agrees that the price is about right, or it's indecision and people don't know whether to buy or sell. And this price pattern is also starting to look like a bit of a curve. It's only the beginning of a curve, but it's almost like gravity's pulling the price down. And if that continues, we could be looking at a lower high, which would then potentially be the sign of a downtrend beginning. Now, while that's a technical read of the chart based on the very recent price movements, if we zoom out and look at the last time we set a lower high, it certainly didn't turn into a downtrend. It just continued to run upwards. Now, I find the technical analysis of Bitcoin a bit of a funny paradox, sometimes. On the one hand, because there's very little capital in Bitcoin compared to the regular Forex markets. In that case, the technical moves are somewhat easier to predict because there aren't a lot of institutional investors or professional traders compared to amateur investors. But because there's so little capital, it leaves room for these unexpected moves to happen at any time if a big whale or a big trader does come in and can move the price unexpectedly. Now, you might say that's true of all markets, and I'd agree, but I noticed that as predictable as Bitcoin is from a technical analysis point of view, it also exhibits these unexpected moves more regularly than the regular fiat Forex markets. Now, the good news, however, is that while I previously said that 1250 seemed to be a sticking point, it looks to me like the market has gotten over that now and has started to move back up above that. Right now, as I speak, it's 1252, and I hope that's then the march back up towards 1300, an attempted breakout at that point. So from a trader's point of view, I'd probably sell at about 1299 and then get back in once the breakout of 1300 was confirmed. But of course, you'd have to have your own rules about what you constitute a confirmed breakout. In terms of the scaling thing, I've got a whole story on this today. Litecoin is starting to bore me now because it's stagnating. It was exciting while it was gaining traction, but now it's sitting at 21.3. Hasn't really moved today, so let's move on. On the Bitcoin network, segregated witness hasn't really moved on a lot, so let's not talk about that. Bitcoin Unlimited has in fact gained 1.4% today, and it now sits at 32.6, leading SegWit by a good 5% now, which is interesting stuff. So now we've got an average of Bitcoin Unlimited gaining 1.2% per day still. So let's see if that trend continues. And again, we're going to talk about this in the main news. So in terms of the news then, I have turned to bitcoinist.com for an article called How to Prepare for a Bitcoin Hardfork. Now, I said in the opening that I'm covering this due to popular demand, and that demand came from a number of YouTube comments specifically asking me to talk about this. I then also saw people like Andreas Antonopoulos and others repeatedly sending out tweets to reassure people that if there is a Bitcoin hardfork, you'll end up with an equal balance on both chains. So that's the first thing to say. Just like when Ethereum split, if you had a balance of, say, 100 coins in your wallet before the fork, you'd have 100 coins in your wallet after the fork, plus another 100 coins on a new duplicate of that coin. And now in the case of Ethereum, that means that you ended up with 100 Ethereum core tokens and 100 Ethereum classic tokens. And on day one, they both had equal value. But as you'll see from CoinMarketCap, they gradually went their own separate ways, and the market decided to buy and sell the different coins and now the prices are very, very different indeed. And this is similar to what we can expect if Bitcoin splits. So let's get into this. It says here that Bitcoin is at a crossroads. The two major scaling proposals, SegWit, which is short for Segregated Witness, and Bitcoin Unlimited, BU for short, are currently vying for Bitcoin users' hearts and minds. At the same time, many are wondering what will happen to their holdings in the case of a Bitcoin hard fork. Now, the image that Bitcoinist.com has used here to illustrate this is quite appropriate in my opinion. And for those of you that are actually listening to this podcast rather than watching it on YouTube, they've used this image of a road sign. It's got a yellow background and it has a black line to represent the road. And the road starts at the bottom and it moves up to the center. Then it goes off in two different directions diagonally to create a Y shape. Now on the road, this would be a warning that the road doesn't actually go straight on ahead. So you can't continue to drive straight on ahead. When the road splits, you have to make your mind up which way you're going to turn off before you get there. So the line going from the bottom of the sign to the middle, that would be representing the chain of transactions on the Bitcoin network that everyone is currently operating on, right? All miners are working on the same Bitcoin right now. Elsewhere, there are other miners that are working together on completely different chains, such as Dash, Litecoin, and so on. They're all separate, they're all using different rules, and everyone gets on just fine. But if a portion of the miners in Bitcoin decide to begin mining transactions that are using a sufficiently different set of rules to the rest, then they will effectively be taking an exit off the highway and going their own way. And if that software that they start to run is significantly different from the Bitcoin that they were previously working on, it's almost bordering on becoming a different coin. In the same way that like Dash and Litecoin and Bitcoin are all separate, well, when does a modification to Bitcoin become a different coin altogether? That's kind of one of the questions. And at that point, there will be two Bitcoins, almost as if it had been cloned. And when that point comes, we have this like a split where everyone will have an identical wallet balance on both versions of Bitcoin, on one and also the clone. So you don't actually have to do anything before the fork, but you may decide to do something or take certain actions after the fork. Now, if Bitcoin does split in this way and we end up with two Bitcoins, we actually now have the original Bitcoin that we were previously using, which will continue. But we'd also have this brand new cryptocurrency that is like the clone of Bitcoin with some modifications. Now you could at that point change the name of the clone and the average person wouldn't actually be any the wiser. It might actually be clearer than having one coin called, say, Bitcoin Core and a completely different currency called Bitcoin Unlimited, because that would just confuse the average user who can't really tell the difference. But of course, that's not going to happen because both sides want to keep the brand name Bitcoin for the sake of recognition, which is kind of a paradox because the two coins will seem so similar to the average user that it'll be hard to tell the difference, just purely because they will work and function almost identically to each other from the user's point of view, and the differences are only technical and under the hood. Now, as long as there are miners maintaining both versions, they will continue to both exist, just like the two versions of Ethereum. Like miners on either side, they could choose to give up on that side and move their mining power over to the other, just like when a miner decides to say, well, I don't want to mine Bitcoin anymore, and I want to move over and mine a different currency. It's the same kind of decision, right? So say if a miner can't afford to continue mining one of the versions of Bitcoin, they would be forced to switch over to the other one or to go out of business. And they're unlikely to allow themselves to go out of business, so that's where the resolution of the situation should happen, and one of the two chains or one of the two versions of Bitcoin should die. Now, the reason it may become unprofitable to continue mining one of the versions is if the price of that particular version drops significantly. And this is where you come in. Given that you have 100 of each coin, according to my earlier example, you can choose to sell one type of Bitcoin and keep the other. And if enough people do that, if they sell enough of the same version of the coin, the price drops, and then mining it becomes less and less profitable. I'm actually personally surprised that Ethereum Classic is still going. I'm not actually sure how the miners are managing to continue to make a profit mining a coin that's worth $1.66 when they could be mining the alternative, which is Ethereum Core, which has a value of $29.40 a coin. Now, of course, that could have something to do with the amount of mining competition, but let's not get into that here because it's not really relevant to this discussion. So let's move further down because this other bit gave me something to say. It says here that this whole situation is due to the major philosophical split in the Bitcoin community related to the notion of what Bitcoin is and what it should be. So this is what it really boils down to. It's two or more differing sets of beliefs about what Bitcoin is and, more importantly, what it should evolve into. And as you'll hear from Josh Shigella say in an interview that I did with him, which I'm going to publish tomorrow, it's almost become like two religions at war. And I think that's a fair statement because this subject really matters to people because the outcome significantly impacts the world at large. Now, I'd like to actually invite everyone to share with me which one of these two philosophies that you personally believe in. So I'm going to outline them and then just post your own views in the comments. Don't go attacking people who have already commented because I'll just ban you from commenting on the channel in future and you won't even know it's happened. So if I ban you, you'll seem to be able to post comments, but you will be the only person that will see them when you're logged into your account. To everyone else, including myself, they'll be hidden. So if you get banned and you continue to post comments, you'll be forever talking to the wall, so don't bother. Now with that said, here are the two basic philosophies. In the red corner, we have Bitcoin Core, who believe that Bitcoin is akin to digital gold. They believe that Bitcoin's most important properties are things like security, the irreversibility of transactions, that Bitcoin is independent from any political views, and they believe that these things are primary and things like transaction speed and transaction fees are secondary. In the blue corner, we have Bitcoin Unlimited, that believes that Bitcoin should act like an everyday digital currency. And this would be the old, can I buy my daily cup of coffee in the coffee shop type of test. And that, of course, requires very fast transactions with very low fees, which, of course, reveals the primary values on the Bitcoin Unlimited side of the argument. So let me know in the comments below, if somehow every individual Bitcoin user were able to cast a single vote on which one of these they believe Bitcoin should be, which one would you vote for? I very much look forward to reading your comments. Keep it civil. You have been warned. So thanks for joining me today, guys. If you liked this episode, hit the like button. If you disliked it, hit the dislike button. Please leave me a comment below with some feedback and get subscribed. And please support the Cryptoverse and boost cryptocurrency adoption by going to cryptoversity.com/podcast and becoming a patron. From just a few dollars a month, you can secure Cryptoversity's future, get unlimited access to all Cryptoversity courses, and access a private patrons-only chat group where you get direct access to me. That is all for today, guys. I'll be back tomorrow with another episode of the Cryptoverse. So until then, it's me, Chris Coney, saying bye for now.